Look at Tia, flicking the bird to Mike from Torium Pro as she finishes a workout in 2 rounds that they did not believe could be done. What is up, you sexy beasts? Hey, as CrossFit enthusiasts and people who follow the athletes and the CrossFit Games, we want to know what's going on, but not all of us have the time to listen to 1-hour podcasts or read all the articles. And there's a couple of things that are being introduced this year that I know you guys might be interested in, but you just want to know the information short and sweet. And that is the worldwide rankings that CrossFit is introducing this year, and also the strength of field. So I've gone ahead and listened to all the podcasts and done all the reading, and I thought today I'll just sum it up for you so that you know what's going on and you can sound like the smart person at your box when you talk about the new systems that CrossFit Games has. So let's try and do this. As we all know, 40 men and 40 women go to the CrossFit Games. Now in previous years, those 40 qualifying spots were already allocated per region. This year they're doing it slightly different. They have got 23 spots already allocated, but the other 17 is up for grabs in a sense. And the way they're going to decide how to allocate those 17 spots is by something called the strength of field. Now, how they determine the strength of field is going to be based on the worldwide rankings, or more specifically, the top 100 in the worldwide rankings. The method or the calculation they'll be applying to the top 100 is called the d'Hondt method, and it is basically a calculation that governments around the world use to allocate seats based on representation of different regions. It's boring stuff. If you are interested in the breakdown of the calculation, I'll link a video below from the barbell spin that kind of goes through all of that. But essentially what we have is the worldwide rankings, the top 100, the strength of field calculation, and then the allocation of those 17 spots to the different regions. So all this information is taken from the CrossFit Games podcast, which you should go and watch. No one watches, but it's great, and you should go and watch that if you have the time. So why a worldwide ranking? What is the reason for it? Well, currently CrossFit Games athletes are basically assessed on how well they did at their very last competition. How did you do at the CrossFit Games? That is all people care about and look at. What the worldwide ranking does, it looks at a 2-year span and rewards consistency of output over that period. So not just looking at your latest comp or maybe how well you did at a certain semi-final, it actually looks at your open, quarterfinal, semis, and games results over a 2-year span and rewards you based on your consistency. This is a great thing. The worldwide rankings will be updated a couple of times each year at key moments. This year, we'll get the worldwide rankings released before the CrossFit Games Open starts. So literally in the next week, we will have the worldwide rankings. They'll then update that after quarterfinals. So just before semifinals, we'll get an updated worldwide ranking, and that updated worldwide ranking is what they'll use to determine the strength of field and allocate these spots to the different regions before semifinals start. So before the semifinals kick off, we will know how many spots are allocated to each region and whether some regions have actually earned more spots. So let's talk about how the point system works and how you actually gain points to get on the worldwide ranking. Starting with the Open, the winner of the Open gets 1,000 points. Then everyone else, it is based off your percentile finish compared to the rest of the world. So if you are in the 90th percentile, you are going to gain 900 points. So essentially just times your percentile by 10. If you finish in the top 99th percentile, you're gaining 990 points. Now when I say winner, I mean worldwide open winner, not per region. Just one person in the world gets 1,000 points. And the same thing with the percentiles. It is not a percentile based on your region. It is a percentile on a worldwide scale. Since we're all doing the same workout online during the same time period, it is a worldwide percentile. Same goes for the quarterfinals. Since it's on the same weekend, it's online, it is a worldwide percentile. The winner of the quarterfinals gets 2,000 points. So it doubles from the Open. And then everyone else takes their percentile finish, worldwide percentile finish, times it by 20. So if you come in the 90th percentile, you are earning yourself 1,800 points. So 90 times 20. Hopefully I haven't lost you just yet. The Open and the quarterfinals is pretty simple stuff. But now we move on to the semi-final. This is a in-person local competition, and all the semi-finals have different sizes. Some have 30 people there, some have 60. And obviously the strength of every semi-final is unique and different as well. So therefore, the points allocation for every semi-final is going to be different. Okay, let's pause there for a moment. So the quarterfinals have come to an end. we have updated worldwide rankings. Now keep in mind, it's not just the Open and the quarterfinals, they are looking 2 years back. So we are actually talking 8 data points back. We are talking semi-finals 2021, CrossFit Games 2021, the complete season of 2022. So the Open, the quarters, the semis, and the games. That's 6 data points, and then the 2023 Open and quarterfinals, that is 8 data points. That's how far they're going back. But nevertheless, after the quarterfinals, we'll have an updated worldwide ranking, and now they'll be able to apply that D'Hondt calculation or method and figure out where the different spots are going, those 17 spots that are floating. Okay, so the points up for grabs at semi-final is 4,000 points for the winner. So we had 1,000 during the Open, 2,000 during the quarterfinals. We're now up to 4,000 points up for grabs for the winner of each of the semi-finals. Now let's say that a region like North America East ends up getting 12 qualifying spots for their region, and a region like Oceania gets 5 qualifying spots for their region. Obviously coming second in the bigger region of 60 athletes compared to a smaller region like Oceania, there's only 30 athletes, the points allocation from first to second has to represent the strength of that field. So for example, the drop down in points from first to second in Oceania might look something like this. The winner gets 4,000 points. The second place person might get 3,000 points. Whereas over on the North American East, first place 4,000, but second place might get something like 3,800. So only a 200 point drop rather than a 1,000 point drop. In other words, coming second in a stronger region will earn you more points than coming second in a weaker region, so to speak. Now, you might be asking, why not approach the semifinals the same way as you approach the quarterfinals in the Open? Just do a worldwide ranking where all the athletes are on the same level playing field. Well, the reason they can't do that is because there's 3 weeks of semifinals. So if you're on week 3, you've got a significant advantage having watched week 1 and 2 go. You've seen the workouts being done, you've had more time to practice and strategize. So that doesn't work. And the other reason is if they did do a worldwide leaderboard for the semifinals, we would have to wait until all the semis are done and the calculations have been done to actually know who goes to the CrossFit Games. So athletes won't actually know at the end of the semi-final whether they go to the CrossFit Games or not. That'll just be an awful experience. So they have to allocate the spots prior to semi-final starting to make it a good experience for everyone, the athletes and the spectators. So the semi-final has to be done in isolation in that region rather than on a worldwide leaderboard, if that makes sense. Well, then you might say, why not just do all the semi-finals on the same weekend? That way, you know, there's no advantages and it just all happens in one go, and then we can quickly work out the scores and allocate the spots. Well, as a fan, first of all, as a fan, I think having all the semifinals on one weekend, you just won't get the same experience. It's a 1 week experience rather than a 3 week season. I like the 3 weeks, being able to tune in every weekend and look at different regions. But more than that, I think it's an impossible task to spread the team that thin over 1 weekend across the world at all these different events. I think it's hard enough as it is having spread out over 3 weeks, never mind having it all on the same weekend. So I don't think it'll be great for spectators, but also I think it'll be impossible for the CrossFit Games team to have all the semis on one weekend. And another factor would be athlete exposure. If you have all these semis all going at once in one weekend, it completely diminishes the attention that certain athletes could get if they had their allocated weekend. So I think athlete exposure is really important, and the 3 weeks achieve that, while 1 weekend will just decimate any exposure that anyone would get. Okay, so the semi-finals have come to an end. We know who's qualified for the CrossFit Games, and now CrossFit will update the worldwide rankings one more time post semi-finals, and they will then use those worldwide rankings for things like heat allocations at the CrossFit Games. Now, obviously at the CrossFit Games, typically they update which heat you're in after every event, but at least for that first event, they could use the worldwide rankings to then allocate people accordingly to where they start and which heats. I think the worldwide ranking is a great thing, and there could be many applications for it going forwards. Adrian Bosman mentioned something like the open announcements, the live open announcements, you know, picking the athletes for that, or the different matchups. You could use the worldwide rankings to determine, you know, who's earned the spots for those and who goes head to head. That's just one example, but there are many ways you can apply the worldwide rankings and reward athletes. Not to mention, sponsors can get a really good idea of where the athletes actually are on a world stage over a 2-year period. So overall, the CrossFit Games rankings is a good thing in itself. Now, the strength of field, That is a different story. How they calculate the strength of field is a different story, and currently I'm not sure it's going to work. I am waiting for the CrossFit Games to release their podcast to explain the strength of field, so I don't want to say too much until they've actually released that. But what I've seen from the barbell spin video especially, it seems like it's going to be very, very hard for these smaller regions to ever increase their qualifying spots for their semifinals. I completely forgot. Obviously at the CrossFit Games, you can win points as well to go on your worldwide ranking. The winner of the CrossFit Games gets 10,000 points to add to their total, and obviously that's going to last for 2 years before it expires. So someone like Tia-Clair to me, even though she is not competing this year, she will still be the #1 ranked CrossFit female in the world, because she will have 2 CrossFit Games wins, which will give her 10 and 10, so 20,000 points. It's going to be impossible to kind of outpoint her with those big wins. So I think the idea was that the CrossFit Games winner can't be outpointed by anyone else. Even if they don't do well in the open or the quarterfinals or the semifinals, they can never be outpointed until those points expire after 2 years. Now, coming back to the strength of field, I don't want to spend too much time here because we are expecting more information and explanation from CrossFit in the next day or two, and most of what I have is taken from the barbell spin video, which I've linked below. But like I said, they're going to take the top 100, and based on how many athletes you have in the top 100 from your region will determine the strength of field. Now, it doesn't matter where those athletes rank in the top 100, they just have to be in there. So let's say that there are 5 Australian males in the top 100. It doesn't matter if they are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on the top 100. They won't get rewarded for that. They are considered equal to the person sitting in 95th or 99th place even. There's no points allocation for where you finish in the top 100. You just have to be in there, and it's the total number of athletes from your region in the top 100 that determines the strength of field. To get in the top 100 athletes, you really have to do well at the semi-final and the games level. There just isn't enough points to gain during the open or during the quarterfinals. So you have to do well during those 2 stages. Now remember, this is the first year that we're doing this, yet we are using the last 2 years of data. So over the last 2 years, there has been more people sent to the CrossFit Games from America and Europe, and so therefore they're going to have more athletes in the top 100. They've had more opportunity to gain points at the CrossFit Games. So it seems like, unless CrossFit has some kind of solution, it seems like some of the bigger regions have an advantage going into this new system already because they are backdating this 2 years. Not only that, but like I mentioned earlier, coming second at a smaller region, you get less points than coming second at a bigger region. So again, there's more opportunity to gain bigger number of points if you're in a bigger region compared to a smaller region. So there seems to be a few little issues with that strength of field calculation, and I'm interested to see how they explain it and how they navigate some of these issues. Obviously there is no perfect system or calculation, but I am interested to see how the team will navigate some of these challenges and what they care about, what they prioritize. But as it stands right now, it does seem that it's going to be very, very hard for regions like Oceania, Asia, Africa, South America to ever increase their representation at the CrossFit Games based on this calculation. But let's sit tight. Let's not jump to conclusions. We'll sit tight. We'll wait for the team from CrossFit Games to give us more information. And once they do, maybe I'll jump on here and do another video on the strength of field. But I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that kind of explains the worldwide rankings and how you can gain points and how all that works. I think the worldwide rankings by itself is a really positive thing, and I love the idea, but I'm not convinced about the strength of field calculation and how you actually earn more spots for your region. So guys, that's it for today. Stay sexy, keep roaring love, and I'll see you soon. Mwah.